Good evening all. My name's Kelly. I'm a mum. I have 3 girls, and this here is Paul. He has 1 daughter, he hopes. We'd like to introduce you to Twile.
That took you a while.
Twile is a secure visual timeline for recording your children's lives.
Before we go any further, I just want to point out that Twile.com is actually live, and I'm sure you've all got mobile phones and tablets. It'd be fantastic if you could sign up while we're on stage. And both Kelly and I are parents, as she said, and we use Twile every day with our kids. And before I show you the product demo, I'll quickly give you an example of how I use Twile. So last summer I went on holiday with my daughter Macy, who was 6 months old at the time. We went with my wife Caroline, grandparents and some close family friends. And obviously we all took lots of photos. When I got home, I put those photos into Dropbox, as you do. I put it in Dropbox to back up those photos, but also so that I could share them with everyone else who was on the holiday with us. And they could add their own photos in, so a bit of a photo op. But it's very flat, so there's lots of just photos. It doesn't really tell me a story. So I wanted to put it into Facebook, so I can tell a bit more of the story. I can see where it was in our life, who I tagged at the time, who was on the holiday. People can add comments, etc. But the timeline on Facebook is really cluttered, very spammy. It's really clunky to get to a point in time using this functionality here. But more importantly, as a parent, I'm really dubious of the privacy settings within Facebook and putting photos of, in some cases, a half-naked daughter into an audience where I can't really control. And that's where Twile comes in. So Twile is a visual timeline that's totally secure to you and your very close network. You add stories rather than just photos. So each of these stories has photos, videos, sounds, comments within them across the timeline. You interact with the timeline by clicking and dragging. You can move to the right to go forward into the future. You go as far forward as you want to, and all the way back by going to the left. And this works really well on tablet devices and mobile phones with a swipe, just completely touch screen. Timeline goes as far back as you want to. And if you click onto a story, it'll load to show you all the photos that I've added to that event. So I can again add as many photos to this as I want to. And each of those photos I can add comments to. I click on a photo. It loads a full-size picture, and we're currently working on a carousel version that allows you to go backwards and forwards through all the photos that are on that storyboard. And we're also looking at adding video to this. You'll have a video player pop up in that window or place that. As I said, you can add a comment to any of these photos, and you can add as many photos and comments to the storyboard as you want to, as well as a map and a list of people and everything else that you want to add. In order to add a new photo, a new story, sorry, you click the plus button, give it a title. You're all now in one of my stories. Choose a date. And then you can set the privacy. So by default, it's visible only to you. It's a private story. No one else can see it. Or you can choose to, your Twile friends can also see the story. The people you've allowed access to your timeline. You give it a description. Sense. It's really just close friends, close family, the sort of people I'm comfortable sharing my personal experiences with. And photos of half-naked daughters of my own. Twile gives me updates, so I get an update every time someone adds me to a story, or comments, or adds photos to a story that I'm in. It also sends me a daily update by email, so I get understanding of what's happened on Twile since I last logged in. As well as seeing Twile day by day, I can also zoom out further. So these buttons allow me to pop out to the month or year view. So if I zoom out to the year, I'll see all of 2013 in view. And that allows me to go back much further in time, much more quickly. And that is the same holiday that I had in Dropbox and Facebook. There are a couple of ways that we're looking to monetize this.
So we know that there's a big opportunity in advertising, but that would be targeted and specific, unlike other social networks out there that I won't mention. However, in the shorter term, we're looking at considering 3 potential options. The first option would be to have a paid version right from the word go. Second would be a freemium version, And the third, a trial period where perhaps you can upload 1,000 photos, followed by payment for extra storage or new features.
As I said, we get a lot of really good feedback from mums. We're working to improve the model, and a lot of customer development, and people are actually using it in the way that we hoped. But from you guys tonight, we'll be really interested to get questions or feedback and advice around how we can scale this model. One of the problems we have is it's a closed network, unlike something like Facebook. So you wouldn't want to invite just everyone to your timeline. So how do we encourage referrals rather than invites, if that makes sense, or refer the product to people? What can we improve about the functionality or the UX and the UI to make people more likely to invite more friends and get them out there? And on that basis, any questions on Twile will be gratefully received.
So, I can see an idea like this really taking off, but there are others attempting to do similar things, Path being one of the bigger ones out there, which is attempting to create that sort of very private social network with many things in it. And I think that's your biggest challenge. I think it's been a wonderful presentation. I could easily imagine my wife would use it, and my sister-in-law would use it, and they would share it, with close friends. In a way, Facebook and Twitter, just isn't a match. But I really think, wow, this is a big competitive market that I see a lot going for. I wish you the best of luck. I thought it was a really good presentation.
Thanks very much. So Path, I really like Path, and I have used it in the past. For this, it doesn't work quite in the same very well, because if you want to add lots of photos, which is really what this is about, Path doesn't really handle that very well. It's more about individual moments. And it sort of merges all the timelines together, which gets very busy. So it's more about a much smaller network and very private moments. But yeah, we're aware it's a difficult market. But thanks for that.
Documenting the kids' lives growing up, and then they'd stored it all up, and the kid looked back at it later.
So it may or may not be an urban legend, but I believe the person who inspired that story on Gmail got kicked off because it was actually against their rules of engagement, terms and conditions of setting up an email account for someone who isn't yet born. But it ties in really nicely into the whole point of doing this, absolutely. So I think for Gmail, it wasn't really an active attempt to enter that market. It was more a case of promoting the product. So Google are a competitor in terms of Circles, which is yet another social network, but I think this is pretty distinct from their offerings.
So the other thing is that most people who are users are quite familiar already with social networks. And something that I use is Storify, and take a lot of information from Twitter and Facebook, and then obviously create a story with that.
Absolutely. Twile actually was originally born as an aggregator, so a timeline of content pulled in from other networks. So we'll absolutely be bringing in Facebook, Twitter, and Storify, Picasa, your Dropbox photos, etc. So everything can pull into one place. For us, it was a case of having a specific target market, which is mums at this stage, but actually we envisage opening this up to a much wider audience as quickly as possible. So actually, one of the reasons I asked you guys to sign up at the beginning is that a lot of you are clearly not mums, partly because half of you are male. But we want as many people to get into the site and give us feedback, because we believe we can actually open that audience up much more quickly than we perhaps originally anticipated. So you can store your life, not necessarily your family life, if you don't have children, or if they're too old and you don't want to record their everyday movements.
I think it's a great idea. Can you also invite them into the app? So, for example, my uncle posted photos of his, his 1-year-old niece. He could bring in like grandma. Can you do that?
So I missed the first part of that.
So can you invite people to view your images if you just upload to the app?
Yes, you can't at the moment, but we're looking at it absolutely. So I think what you're alluding to is that you don't necessarily want to share your whole timeline with people. Okay, yeah. So you'll be able to share a particular story with individual people, or with Facebook, for example. So you could say, well, actually, this story of Macy's first birthday is perfectly safe. I'm happy to share that, or maybe a digest summary of it onto Facebook. So you can kind of allow people into your timeline a little bit without giving them full access.
So I think it'd be good to keep away from Facebook, because anything that keeps my grandma off Facebook looking onto this would be brilliant. Seriously.
I feel the same way about your grandma.
Thanks very much.
Thank you. Give it to me.